Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and it's my very great pleasure to welcome you to a brand new series of Just a Minute. I am going to be here every day for the next 4 weeks, and I'm going to have 4 guests with me each day, and I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from that subject. So let us now meet the 4 talented performers who are going to play in the show today. First of all, we welcome a very outstanding comedy writer and comedian in his own right. That is Barry Cryer. And beside him sits a talented, effervescent, delightful comedian, Sue Pollard. And on my left, that distinguished art critic, Brian Sewell. And beside him, another distinguished individual, political commentator, journalist, John Sargent. Would you please welcome all 4 of them? And we have a lovely, warm audience here as we start the show with Barry Cryer. Barry, the subject I'd like you to talk on is ever-decreasing circles. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Who can forget that seminal series, Ever-Decreasing Circles, starring Richard Briers, Penelope Wilton, Peter Egan as the next-door neighbour. A story of suburban angst, neighbourhood watch, endless conflict and confusion. The plots proliferated, and who can forget Howard and...
Sue Pollard, you have challenged.
It was so fantastic, but I'm sure this is a good chance. 2 forgets?
2 forgets, yes. A correct challenge, Sue.
True.
I'm sorry I've interrupted you, because that was really good.
Yes. Not at all. No, that's the game, to interrupt and gain points. Because you get a point for a correct challenge, Sue.
You've got ears like a hawk.
But they're rattling a bit today.
Right, Sue, so you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, as I said. There are 42 seconds available, and you take over the subject of ever-decreasing circles, starting now.
A singular, popular enjoyment.
Sue, you've been challenged immediately by John Sargent.
Hesitation, I'm afraid, Sue. Appalling.
Yes,
absolutely appalling hesitation.
Well, don't rub it in, John.
Yeah, because I realised I got to say singularly. But it only came out as singular. Oh, go on, take pity on me. We've known each other a long time, Nicholas.
I know I've known you a long time, and you're lovely with it. We don't mind whether you hesitate or do anything, because it's just lovely to have you on the show, Sue. But, John, it was a correct challenge, so you get a point for that, and you take over the subject of ever-decreasing circles, and there are 37 seconds available starting now.
Ever-decreasing circles can give the impression of confusion if you're the person involved. If you're a small rat or a rodent and you're chasing your tail and it's harvest time and you've been upset by the harvest combiner.
And, Sue, you challenge first.
I believe there was repetition on harvest.
There was indeed, Sue. You listen well. You might have a lot in your ear holes, but there's...
you cleaned them out this morning.
No, on your lobes, I should have said, on your ear lobes.
No, that's not the right challenge. A harvest mouse is the definition of a particular kind of mouse. You cannot just say mouse if you mean a harvest mouse.
Have you come on here to be difficult and contentious?
Isn't that what you expected?
Yes. No, it's all right, darling. You have got a correct challenge. So
yes, but we're deviating now from the challenge, aren't we? About talking about what's harvest mouse and what isn't.
I know we are.
I've got to get a train in a minute. I'm booked to go back.
Sue, you save it for the show. But Barry, yes, you got something to say.
Black hair when I came here today.
Oh, I'm glad I've come on this. I'm having a nice time. Yes?
You have got a correct challenge, and you have 27 seconds to tell us something about ever-decreasing circles, starting now.
Ever-decreasing circles?
Sure. Ron, what are you playing?
Hesitation.
Now, just a minute, Hal. I've got to breathe, Brian.
Oh, no, please stop.
Stop
now.
Just please, right. Sue, an incorrect challenge, because you did not hesitate. You really got going with speed and panache. 26 seconds. In fact, you barely went for a second. 26 seconds now. Ever-decreasing circles starting now.
Ever-decreasing circles, it seems to me what we've all been doing in the last few seconds, actually, but I'm delighted to get on to the correct subject. I'm hoping not to be interrupted at all by any further seconds. Of course, as I said...
Why?
Repetition of seconds?
Yes. Barry, you have a correct challenge. Another point to you. You take back the subject. 15 seconds are available. Ever-decreasing circles starting now.
One of the most marked characteristics of the harvest mouse is the ever-decreasing circles in which it runs in a field of crops, having no sense of direction, being disorientated and confused. The aforementioned animal tends to pursue...
Yes!
Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion it was Barry Cryer. So at the end of that round, Sue Pollard, you'll be interested to hear, is in the lead. She got a lot of points in that round with Brown Sewell's help. And Barry Cryer is second place. And Sue, would you take the next round? Lovely subject, bananas. Tell us, why do you laugh? Why should you? What is the association of bananas and Sue Pollard?
I'm coming to that in a minute.
You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
In America, you could be a top one. I've been called this, but the correct term for bananas is an object you can be eaten with. Oh, no, I've said that wrong. Can I carry on?
No. John Sargent challenged you.
You can't be eaten with a banana. Nobody can be.
Deviation from English as we understand it. But you do create wonderful images in the mind, which are wonderful, Sue. John, a correct challenge. A point to you for that, and there are 51 seconds available on bananas starting now.
Bananas, the whole subject must be straightened out. If you remember, there was a famous mafia chief who was called Joe Bananas. The last conversation he was involved with was when a man turned up in a car.
Why do you challenge, Sue?
Because John mentioned the whole subject of bananas, and then he said there was a man called Joe Bananas.
You're talking rubbish, darling.
So you're actually accusing me of what the topic is all about, then? In a polite way, you're trying to say I am banana.
You can repeat the subject on the card as often as you wish, in whichever context you like to repeat it, so that is not actually deviating. So you still have the subject, you have a point for incorrect challenge from Sue, and you have 42 seconds available, starting now.
Right, let's clear up these bananas. There was a Reverend Canaan Banana who worked in Africa, and he was in Zimbabwe. He was a chief leader, and he's now in prison. There was another banana called Joe Bananas, and he was a mafia chief in New York. And the last reported conversation he had was when a man stopped a car, pointed a gun at him, and said, "Okay, bananas, this is it." Now, in America, they call it bananas, whereas we call it banana. But then, what's a tomato but any other name than banana?
And why have you challenged, Brian?
I think talking about tomatoes is deviation.
Well, it's not deviation mentioning the tomato in the connection with bananas, because he was going on, and I've never heard a man go on a subject and mention the word bananas so often and so successfully and succinctly. So, John, you have another point, and you keep the subject, and there are 14 seconds available. Bananas starting now.
The other point about bananas at the moment is that they are the centre of a dispute between the United States and Europe in a trade war, nothing less than something which could cause enormous difficulty between our two great continents. And you may think it's funny, but bananas in this context are very serious.
John Sargent, with great style and panache, kept going on the subject of bananas until the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he has taken the lead at the end of that round. Now then, Sue Pollard's on bananas. Brian, Sue, we'd love to hear from you on Monet's paintings starting... No, sorry, it's singular. Monet's painting starting now.
Monet's painting, of course, was an activity rather than an object. The activity began in a...
It's a difficult game, Brian.
Yes, of course. Yes, I'm
right.
sorry. I'm thrown completely by your sort of quibbling about the singular or the plural.
But those have been the rules of Just a Minute
Yes.
for 34 years, actually.
But you're not allowing me the rhetorical device either.
No.
You're just approaching the male menopause,
it's all right.
Brian. just please accept that.
53 seconds available for you, John, on Monet's painting starting now.
When Monet started his career, he was called Monet. And
That's your challenge.
It's not exactly a deviation. When he started his career, he was called Oscar.
excellent. The Monet that I'm talking about was called Monet. And I will explain that as the time goes on. I've got 53 seconds, and I can explain this difficulty. It starts in his life. Everyone has personal problems. He had this problem about whether he should be called Monet, Monet, or Money.
I think you should keep that for the show, actually, because if we're talking about Monet's painting, I think we must be talking about the painter. And I think Brian knows more than us about him, and then we accept the fact...
needs a bit of explanation. Brian hasn't given me a chance to explain how I know about this problem that Monet had with his pronunciation.
Do you mean Monet the painter or Monet the politician?
No, because you'll know as it comes out. We've got 53 seconds.
Listen, do you two boys want to go outside and have a real sit off out there? I'm going to give the subject to Brian Sewell and tell him he's got 49 seconds on Monet's painting starting now.
The earliest pictures were signed with this middle name rather than the first, which was Claude. He came into his own at about the age of 20 and 60. I got my 6 and my 9 muddled up.
That's all
Oh,
right.
bless. Oh,
So,
yes,
John,
I
you
can
see,
do
you
that.
get back in again, don't you? And you have another point as well. And you have the subject, and you have 38 seconds starting now.
I will keep very carefully now to Monet. He lived in France in a lovely house with a big garden. At the bottom of the garden there was a lake.
And, Sue, you've challenged.
Yes, I would like to challenge that description given by John, because I suppose unless you were actually a frequent visitor to his abode, how do we know that you haven't made
Why don't you
such
have him for
description
repetition of garden?
2 gardens.
Oh, I never thought of that. I thought mine was said. Oh, I've gone on a bit there, haven't I? But never mind.
All right, we'll
you
give
at
it to you,
all.
Sue, because you haven't played the game very much. You have a repetition of garden, and there are 30 seconds for you to tell us something about Monet's painting starting now.
Of course, Monet is not to be confused with the other painter of the same initial, and we can almost pronounce it equally the same. He has been known...
And you were challenged.
Two said.
Two sayings.
Oh, what's the matter with me?
Two
I'm
sayings.
mental.
No, you're not. You just find the
They were
game is
just
difficult.
bananas.
That was the last topic, Ryan. Meet me
Listen.
outside. I can pack a punch.
Right. Brian, you have a correct challenge. You have a point for that. 22 seconds. Monet's painting starting now.
There's a very large exhibition of Monet's paintings at the Royal Academy at this very moment. Most of these were painted...
Barry.
Slight hesitation, I thought.
No. Slight hesitation, but not enough to be, within
What's
the
the
rules.
dividing line, then? Between slight
I've never
but not
worked
enough?
it out. Over 30 years, I've never worked it out. And I just have to make that sort of instant judgment. And on this occasion, the judgment goes towards Brian Sewell, so he gets a point for being interrupted. He keeps the subject. 15 seconds. Monet's painting starting now, Brian.
1900 and 1926, when he died. Unfortunately, poor Monet was blind most of the time, and these are unspeakable daubs rather than fine paintings. Nevertheless, the Royal Academy, which is blind most of the time, 2 pounds.
Oh, yes, that was very good,
So Brian was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. Barry challenged just after the thing because he thought he'd said blind twice, which he did. But it was too late. And Brian has leapt forward. Yes, he's in second place, equal with Sue Pollard. He likes to be equal with Sue Pollard, I'm sure.
Yes.
Fine, it's John Sargent's turn to begin. The subject is pests. John, I'm sure in your political time you've met quite a few of those, maybe interviewed some of them. But tell us something about the subject in this game starting now.
Pests can be terrible in Africa, the biblical pestilence and famine. Millions of locusts come down and they rip the leaves off the crops. And all you can see in the gloom, the sun has darkened, is just the sight of Bob Geldof.
Barry, what are you showing?
How does the sun darken?
Well, it's, you know how the sun is usually quite bright,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it can hurt your eyes.
Yes.
You put millions of locusts between you and the sun,
So the sun hasn't darkened?
and it darkens. Well, the sun to you is darkened.
No.
But this is
The
philosophy.
locusts have darkened the sun.
No. I think he has the authority of Genesis on his side.
God, we're going to bring the Bible into this. I shouldn't have said God before the Bible, should I? Barry, I think that's a clever challenge of deviation, so I give you the benefit of the doubt there and tell you that you have the subject of pests and you have 45 seconds starting now.
Pests to me are represented by people who say, dare I say, and pardon my French and for my sins. These idiosyncratic, irritating conversational ploys. They throw at you endlessly. They din on my ears like...
And Brian, you've challenged.
They and they.
Yes,
Yes.
Very well interrupted there, I thought, Brian.
I don't think it's I think you're in a position to comment other people's challenges, Sue.
Well, I've been listening. I mean, you couldn't help but hear it.
Her reactions are slow.
Yes, right. We often let 2 days go, but 3, all right. Brian, we give it to you. Pest is with you now. 30 seconds starting now.
I have recently sold a house. And one afternoon, when a party of rather important people were about to arrive with the possibility of making an offer for it, what should I discover in my kitchen but ants? Not just 2 or 3, but several thousand ants. Oh,
And ants, I know.
Bless him.
John, the ants came in there too often, and 15 seconds for you on pests starting now.
The real pests are those who work for private camping companies and you are suddenly told...
Just a minute.
Hesitation there.
And there was a hesitation, but no, after that particular remark, yeah, I think you were waiting for the laugh, which didn't come, actually.
My memory was going back to the instant I'm about to describe, where I was clamped.
You got more
Anybody would hesitate for a
to
second.
Clamping.
No clamping.
Oh, no, we thought you said camping. Your
I know you said
diction
camping.
is
No,
terrible.
we're talking about clamping.
And we all
when
thought you
you're,
said
when
camping,
you're parking
actually.
illegally.
I say, ask the audience, Nicholas. Do you
Yes.
think he said
Yes.
camping?
Yes.
Anyway, John, the thing was
Yes.
that Barry had you for hesitation. That was a correct challenge. So, Barry, you have the subject of Pests back with you. 8 seconds starting now.
2 recent blockbuster films, Ants and A Bug's Life, deal with pests, delineating as they do a vast community of these small insects living as it were.
So, Barry Clark is then speaking as he was away. Gained that extra point for doing so, and he's leapt forward now. He's equal with Brian Sewell in second place, just behind our leader, who is still John Sargent. And John, it's your turn to begin. The subject, oh, that's pests. We've just done that one. We're back with Barry Cryer.
Oh,
Drawing a blank. That's a good subject. And by the way, they can repeat any of the words on a card if it's a phrase, you know, individually or separately. So, Barry, drawing a blank, 60 seconds, starting now.
I'm daunted by the presence of Brian Sewell on this programme because I would have thought that drawing a blank is a contradiction in terms. How on earth can you draw a blank? An empty canvas, a void.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was a sort of Sewell slip, was it?
Yes.
Yes, it was. But what actually happens then is if someone's interrupted, they get a point for the interruption and they carry on speaking on the subject. And there are 49 seconds with you, Barry, on drawing a blank starting now.
In my own life of writing through the years, I often drew a blank, reached a mental block. I remember years ago trying to think of the right word for 2 weeks. And then I thought, fortnight. That is the word that I was searching for. I've said word.
Oh, never mind.
John, you challenged.
Word, I'm
Word.
afraid.
Yes,
Yes.
there were too many
Word.
words, but then he lives with words. It's his
He
living,
does,
isn't
I
it?
know, he loves them.
And
He
yes,
nurtures
and he puts them together so beautifully as well, and so funnily.
then.
I'm giving all the build-up I can, but the audience aren't reacting.
They were nodding. They were nodding.
Right. So, John Sargent, you have the subject of drawing a blank. There are 35 seconds available starting now.
Drawing a blank is one of those American phrases which could be the title of a book by Raymond Chandler. He wrote The Lost Weekend. He also wrote The Big Sleep.
And you've challenged.
2 routes, am I correct in
You are
saying
right.
routes?
Yes.
2 routes, yes.
I reckon I've got the real reason why you do so well on this, because you don't flow, do you?
What do you mean? You don't flow.
He don't
don't
flow.
flow.
He hasn't got a flow.
Who hasn't got
You haven't got a flow.
Haven't I?
Because you know when he talks, he goes things like, the reason I have come across this word pesticide is because in the 20th century. Don't you think he attacks every word?
Deviation from sanity.
Well, so, Pollard, we now have a chance to see your flow, and I can't wait for it.
What was it again? What we doing?
All right, darling, all right, don't get too
Drawing a
tense.
blank.
Drawing a blank,
Drawing
yes.
a blank.
Drawing a
I've drawn
blank,
one. No,
flow
I've
away
drawn
with
that.
it, Sue, and you have 27 seconds if you want them starting now.
Drawing a blank is not the phrase that could be levied at Rolf Harris, as he usually...
Barry,
Can a
yes.
phrase be levied? Levelled? Can it be levied?
No.
No,
Can it be
can't
levied,
No,
Brian?
it cannot
I
be
meant to
levied.
say levelled,
I know
but it
you did.
kind of, you know, got stuck on my tongue and came out as id instead of
I know,
L.
I know. So you're challenging for deviation
taking
to
lessons
English,
in
Deviation from the
Japanese.
English language.
as we understand it, yes. Sorry, what were you saying, Brian?
Sue's been taking lessons in Japanese and can't tell her L's from her R's.
Barry, you had a correct challenge. So you had the subject of drawing a blank. It's back with you, and there are 19 seconds available starting now.
The endless vista of no ideas, inspiration, or I've forgotten what I was going to say. It's a deadly subject, this.
It is the most frustrating game you've ever invented. John, and when you've got 3 bright sparks breathing down your neck trying to trip you up all the time, it's even more difficult. John Sargent, you had a correct challenge there. Drawing a blank, and there are 18... No, they're not. There are 13... No, they're not. There's 13 seconds. I've got a little clock in front of me. And, I'm sorry.
That word had an element, didn't it?
Could I get started? This is very frustrating. I want to go. I want to get going.
I've got 4 men with me that are obviously in the great need of Viagra. Nobody can get anything going.
Maybe that's what's wrong with my little clock.
Oh, this is fun, isn't it?
13 seconds are still available for drawing a blank. It's with John Sargent starting now.
Drawing a blank.
Brian.
Hesitation.
No.
Yes, a distinct drawing of breath.
I know he has to
arm.
draw breath before he only went for less than a second. But John, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, and you have 11 seconds on drawing a blank starting now.
Drawing a blank is when a detective in America drives up in a white car to a big mansion. In the side of the mansion, there is a greenhouse.
Brian.
Hesitation before greenhouse.
That's right. Greenhouse.
Yes,
Yes,
That's right.
we're in agreement with that.
Brian. You very cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go on drawing a blank. What do you mean, oh, it's part of the game.
No, thank you for the old words you said, oh.
Right.
Yeah.
2 seconds
I'll talk to
on
you
drawing
after
a
the show,
blank.
thank you.
With you, Brian, starting now.
It is the activity of most contemporary artists.
Brian Sewell was in speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he's getting quite a few points now. He's equal with Barry Cryer in second place, and Sue Pollard is trailing little John Sargent's in the lead, and Sue Pollard, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is, I think this has been thought of especially for you, the kiss of life. Oh, yes. I'm sure anyone would love to give you the kiss of life, because they would get more life back than you. Sue, you have 60 seconds to talk on the subject, starting now.
I know many women and indeed men who would love to be on the receiving end of the kiss of life, preferably given by somebody of wonderful gender, i.e. Brad Pitt.
What is... I'm sure that is a deviation.
Hold on, wonderful gender.
One can either be male or female, but wonderful gender suggests
hold on, Brian. My life went on first.
Yeah, but you, Brian,
It's so
you
difficult
at
to
least
play
knew
this.
that I meant male or female, so you can have gender. What's that?
As it happens,
You can't be both.
Oh, I have to
As it happens,
stand
my
up.
lawyer
My knees
here-
are going. I'm of that age. I've had to stand up.
Darling,
Not bad legs, though, are they? They'll do.
darling, we haven't come on... Sue,
Sorry.
for goodness sake, let's sit down there firmly. Right, now then. As much as we love you, you haven't come on just a minute to show off your legs,
No,
darling.
sorry.
It's to
As
show...
my-
have you.
Oh, yes. Well interrupted.
John Sargent has the subject, and there are 47 seconds available. The kiss of life starting now.
we were very keen on the kiss of life when we were doing life-saving courses.
Oh, no,
at
sorry,
school.
I've interrupted too soon.
Why?
Because it just said 2 we's. He said, we were very keen on the kiss of life when we...
Well, how else would you make the sentence work?
Yes, but you've
Comes
just
as one.
tried to trip me
You
up
could
on
use the
wonderful
present
gender.
participle.
I mean, that was not right.
I think if he did repeat we, you're entitled to have it, though we usually let little words like that go.
Oh, do we?
Yes, but you've
I'm
done
so
it.
sorry.
Otherwise, it's very mean, Sue, and people like me burst into tears and walk out.
Mine too.
You see
I
what I
can
mean? It's that
understand that.
serious. It's that sort of getting personal.
But it's just it's
Listen,
a heated
Sue,
debate.
Sue, you've got the subject back again, and you've got a point for it, and you have 43 seconds, and it's the kiss of life, and you start now.
Unfortunately...
And you jump.
That was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation. So, Brian...
No, I was gathering momentum
I
to go
know.
into my flow again.
But your momentum didn't come quick enough, darling. So, Brian, you have 41 seconds for you to tell us something about the kiss of life starting now.
For some of us, the kiss of life might well be the kiss of death. Because if we came round to consciousness...
Barry.
Blatant hesitation.
Yeah.
Oh, you could have driven a coach and horses
There's
through
no
it.
need to rub it in. It was hesitation, and I agree.
More salt with your wound, Vicar.
You're really sort of playing the audience, getting them to groan in sympathy with you. So, you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject of a kiss of life, and there are 34 seconds, and you start now.
I was in a pub in Glasgow, which may surprise you, and one of the less regular of the customers had misunderstood the term.
John Sargent, your challenge, yes.
Yeah, it's got a
Hesitation.
muddle over it.
Yes.
That's good, yeah.
John, the kiss of life is back with you, and there are 26 seconds starting now.
When we were doing life-saving courses, we were particularly keen, the boys were, to make sure that we blew a lot of air into the lips of some of the girls. The staff didn't think this was a very good idea. We said we were trying to help them because we didn't want them to pass away because of a silly accident in the swimming pool. So they decided...
And Brian Sewell's challenge.
Seems to be rather a lot of becauses in the sentence.
Yes, there was more than one because. So, Brian, you've got in there.
Oh, look at his face.
That's awful.
Not like this on the news, is he? Not petulant on the news.
Right, Brian, a correct challenge. The last 11 seconds of the show. Today, the kiss of life starting now.
Imagine, there you are, flat on your back, unconscious, and somebody has pinched your lips in a way that allows them to suck air in as somebody else is blowing.
John Sargent got in first. And you got in, John, with half a second to go.
And the perfect lips to do it.
The toast is, nobody loves a smart ass.
John Sargent, half a second, kiss of life starting now.
The kiss of life.
Right, there we are. So they all got lots of points in that show. They all contributed so well. The contributions is what I enjoy. The points is what they enjoy. And coming out on top with the most points of all was John Sargent. So we say, John, you're our winner. So, on behalf of Barry Clare, Sue Pollard, Brian Sewell, John Sargent and myself, Nicholas Parsons, we hope you've enjoyed the show and be at the end of your televisions next time we play Just a Minute. Until then, goodbye. And once more, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Just a Minute, the exciting, challenging, and sometimes outrageous game in which I ask 4 guests to speak, if they can, on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. Let us meet the 4 talented performers who today are going to play Just a Minute. We welcome back the irrepressible Tony Hawks, and beside him, the daring Clare Balding. And on my left, the delightful Wendy Richard. And beside her, the engaging Stephen Frost. Please welcome all 4. If you're not aware of the rules, by yet they will become obvious as we play the game, in which we're going to begin today with Tony Hawks. Tony, duvets. Oh, that's a lovely subject. Talk on it if you can. 60 seconds are available, starting now.
Most governments don't really know what they're doing with their education policy. They're always talking about bringing back the 3 R's, reading, writing and spelling. But the problem...
yes, Stephen, you've challenged.
Yeah, deviation. The subject was duvets, and he's talking about politics.
Well, he hasn't got onto the subject of duvets, so that is certainly deviation. So, Stephen, a correct challenge. And Stephen gets a point for a correct challenge. He takes over the subject, and there are 52 seconds available. And, Stephen, you start now.
Not many people know that duvet is Norwegian for sheep. And this is where duvets come from. Why don't they actually...
Wendy, you challenge.
Just a hesitation, I think, there.
Yes.
I always hesitate round sheep.
That's not what I've heard.
Really, I don't think you should bring your private life into this show like that.
I don't, the sheep do.
But, Wendy, a correct challenge. So you get a point for the correct challenge. You have 45 seconds still left, and you tell us something about duvets starting now.
I personally don't care for duvets. I much prefer blankets because I like to be tucked in all the way round the edges.
Ooh.
But my Cairn Terrier, Shirley Brahms, has 3 different duvets. One for the car, one for the kitchen.
And Stephen Frost.
And one for Sunday air.
Yes, sorry, thanks,
He sounds the right one, that dog.
So Stephen had another correct challenge, another point to him, and 30 seconds still available. Stephen, duvet starting now.
I've got a king-size duvet. It's 7'6" by 7...
It's a difficult game. The 7 came up. Wendy got in first. Duvet is back with you, Wendy, and 25 seconds starting now.
I did have a duvet on the bed in the spare bedroom, and one...
Yes.
Bed and bedroom, no.
Bedroom's one word.
Oh, no,
Bedroom's
incorrect,
one
I'm
word.
sorry.
I know, don't worry, don't apologise. It's a difficult game and you have to listen so carefully. So, an incorrect challenge, Wendy, so you get a point for an incorrect challenge. You keep the subject. 21 seconds available, starting now.
The duvet was up there, and I have to tell you, it was a nightmare changing the cover on it. To struggle about with a duvet when it comes to laundry day and having to put the clean...
What did you say then, now? It's what you said?
No, it was sheets. That's what I said, Nicholas.
Oh,
Don't panic.
Stephen, 10 seconds are available. The subject is duvets, and you start now.
Most duvets are made of cotton, some, of course, nylon, but the best material that duvets can be.
And, Clare, your challenge.
Hesitation there. Or stumble.
I don't think
so.
Within, I know you haven't played as much as the others, but not within the strict rules of just a minute.
Sounds like desperation to me. I think Claire's right.
Oh, we're back to the sheet again.
Thank you. Exactly.
Right. Now, I'm going to give Stephen the benefit of the doubt, and I always try and redress the balance if a situation can arise in your favour some other time, Clare. So, another point to you, Stephen. Duvet starting now.
If you put the duvet cover on, make sure that you are wearing gloves for any fingerprints on the...
Stop! Wendy challenge. Half a second before the whistle. What was it?
I think we were hesitating there, weren't we?
I'm going to admit to it.
And you're going to admit it.
Yeah.
So Wendy's cleverly got in with half a second to go on duvets, starting now.
Duvets.
Whoever is speaking in this game when the whistle is blown gains an extra point. On this occasion it was Wendy Richard, and you'll not be surprised to discover she has taken a strong lead at the end of that round. Clare Balding, will you take the next round? The subject, oh, what a lovely one. One of my favourite things, Bubble and Squeak. Dory, can you tell us something about Bubble and Squeak in just a minute, starting now?
Bubble and Squeak is probably a dish that Nicholas ate in his deprived childhood during the war. It was made up of the leftovers from Sunday lunch, and it mainly consisted of cabbage and potatoes, which didn't do wonders for the taste, nor for the subsequent aroma of the room in which you were eating it. Not one of my favourite lunches is Bubble and Squeak.
Tony, your challenge.
Grammar.
It might have been a repetition of favourite. I think, did she say it wasn't one of your favourite dishes, or not?
No, I think she repeated lunches, but that was not your challenge. And you have gained a point for an incorrect challenge, and you have the subject still. 42 seconds are available. Bubble and Squeak, starting now.
If you were to devour Bubble and Squeak all day long, you would end up being extremely sick, and you would have a problem with your wind. It is not the best dish in the...
Who's Stephen?
It was like a commentary, and then they'd come up to the stick, they were jumping, weren't they? Hesitation is what I was saying.
I'll give it to you, yes, hesitation on Bubble and Squeak. And I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you. I think it's a great dish. I regularly have bubble. In fact, I say to my wife, save the leftovers, please, for my Bubble and Squeak. And she does. She gives me a great Bubble and Squeak.
Now we're getting into your personal life, Nicholas.
I know, yes. Well, you can call it different things, can't you? But there we are. Bubble and Squeak is the subject. You have a correct challenge, Stephen. You have a point for that. 32 seconds starting now.
In the old days, there was an old comedy double act called Bubble and...
who's that? Tony, yes.
Repetition of old. In the old days, they were an old...
and it's a correct
challenge. No, it's just a game.
I know, but it's keen, isn't it? Keenness. 29 seconds for you on Bubble and Squeak, Tony, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons is always inviting me round to his house to eat Bubble and Squeak. He is so keen on it, and his wife makes him lovely Bubble and Squeak, and I can testify to that. I used to be cooked it by my Auntie Gladys, a fine old woman who would take me over her knee, but that's another story I don't want to go into, and dish up this food and spoon it into my mouth. I was only 2.5 years old at the time and wasn't able to hold those receptacles in my hand.
Wendy, yeah.
I think we're struggling with the cutlery there, aren't we?
Wendy, correct challenge. And you have 5 seconds. Bubble and Squeak, starting now.
I always intend to make Bubble and Squeak with the leftovers from the Sunday lunch, as I'm a great believer in greens.
Whoever, speaking as the whistle went, as I said before, gains an extra point. It was Wendy, and with other points in that round and the points from before, she's now in the lead just ahead of Stephen Frost, and trailing a little are Tony Hawks and Clare Balding. And whose turn is it to begin? Wendy Richard, it's your turn to begin. Croquet. Tell us something about that elegant game in this show, starting now.
I don't really know anything about croquet, except it is played with mallets, balls and hoops. Those of you who can remember Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts started a croquet game. She used those pink things, flamingos, for the things that you hit.
Claire, your challenge.
I think probably to just put you out of your misery at the beginning.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Hesitation, yes, right. Claire, correct challenge. There are 40 seconds available. You've got another point, of course. Croquet is the subject, and you start now.
I believe I'm right in saying that croquet was originally invented as a game for ladies. They played it wearing very long skirts because you could just get the mallet back between your legs without the skirt rising at all to show any knee.
Who's
Is
challenge?
it skirts?
I said skirts and skirts.
Oh, sorry,
skirts.
Clare, have a point.
No, she has
Clare,
a point.
you're calling me Clare now.
Clare, because she's playing croquet, so she's calling her Clare.
Yes.
Clare Boiling, yes. There are 31 seconds left for croquet with you starting now.
But since the development of this delightful game, men joined in, and it has now become rather vicious because you can, in fact, hit another player's ball right off the croquet lawn. Think how much more interesting golf would be if Nick Faldo and Colin Montgomery, when they hit their little white things onto the green...
Why did you challenge her?
Sorry to interrupt. Repetition of hit.
Yes, you were hit. You got away from hitting the word ball, but you used the word... Oh, it's a tough game. But, Tony, you got in cleverly with 18 seconds available. Croquet starting now.
Where Wimbledon tennis championships are played at the All England Club is also a croquet club. Not a lot of people know.
And two clubs. Two clubs, yes. Well done. Well, listen, Stephen, you've got croquet. You have 11 seconds starting now.
Not many people know this, but croquet is Norwegian for goat. This word was brought over to England by the Anglo-Saxons and Dukes when they invaded this country with the Vikings and made this game up using their helmets and the heads of the monks they killed.
Stephen Frost is speaking as a whistleblower and gained that extra point for doing so. He's equal in the lead now with Wendy Richard. Stephen, it's actually your turn to begin. Oh, this is an interesting subject. August the 11th, 1999. Tell us something about that particular date, starting now.
August the 11th, 1999 is actually the date of the total eclipse, which will take part in this country over the peninsula of...
Claire.
Hesitation.
Yeah. Hesitation, yes, because he wanted to say take place and he said take part, and he couldn't get out of it. Oh, it's a tough game. But Claire, you cleverly got in. You have 52 seconds, and you have the 11th of August, 1999.
Until Stephen started his discourse on the eclipse, which I so rudely interrupted, I wasn't aware at all of the significance of August the 11th, 1999. I merely heard the date and thought, oh, it's 2 days after my best friend's birthday. Have I missed it already? Again. But in fact, it is the date when many people will be travelling...
Tony, you challenge.
Repetition of date.
Yes, we had too much date there. And there are 37 seconds available for Tony to tell us something about the 11th of August, 1999.
The 11th of August 1999 is the night I am going to see the Millennium Inn, because there will be so many crowds on December the 31st. Get in there first, I say.
Yes.
Repetition of in. See it in and get in there first.
Repetition of what?
In.
Oh,
In.
right.
That's a tough challenge. In, a little small word will often gets passed by, but no, Claire, correct challenge. Another point to you, 26 seconds available, the 11th of August, 1999, starting now.
It has occurred to me that that challenge was grossly unfair. It was only a very small word. But continue as I must. August the 11th, 1999, the whole world will decamp to Cornwall. Not a good day to be on the A303 or on the M5.
Yes, I know the challenge.
Yeah.
Who? I didn't see which light came on. Which one was it? It was Stephen, yes, yours.
2 3s. 3
Yes, 303, A303.
Oh,
I thought it was on.
No.
303, that's the way to play the game. That's why you have to listen. 11th of August is back with you, Stephen, with another point as well. 11th of August, 1999.
The 11th of August 1999 is, of course, 10 days away from the 1st of August 1999.
And you've challenged, why?
Oh, it is.
It is.
Forget I said that. These years of education totally lost on me.
you don't give the betting odds as well when you're racing, do you?
Sometimes? Very rarely, very bad.
So, Stephen, The 11th of August, 1999 is with you starting now.
At 10:30 on that morning, the skies will grow dark.
I'm afraid his brain has as well.
No, I'd go for the drama of it, you see.
It's not an acting performance we want.
Hesitation, right.
Hesitation.
4 seconds, Tony. The 11th of August, 1999, starting now.
August the 11th, 1999 will be my birthday, as it was the previous year, and the one before...
Tony Hawks is then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he is moving forward. He's now equal with Clare Balding, just behind Wendy Richard, but Stephen Foster's taken the lead. And Tony Hawks, your turn to begin. The subject, jam. A lot of people don't know that those are the initials we use for this particular programme. Just a minute. It's colloquially referred to as jam. Will you talk about the subject of jam? 60 seconds if you can, starting now, Tony.
One very good way to impress people is to go up to them and say, did you know that just a minute is J-A-M, jam? And they will be so bowled over by how impressive a figure you are knowing that they...
Claire, you're challenged. Yes, so impressed. There's too much impression.
Impressive a figure the second time.
Impressive and impressed.
Oh, no, he can.
Right, yes, you've got it, Tony. Right,
I was
50 seconds still on jam, starting now.
A good thing to do when you're in a traffic jam is to let a little bit of a gap develop in front of you, then look in the mirror and see how it's irritating the person in the car behind. And then don't fill it and let it get really big, and then they try and overtake you, and then zoom up into it like that. It really makes them angry, and they shout at you, and the veins come out on their neck, and it's really pleasing if you can do...
Really?
Really, yes, there were two reallys there. So, Claire, another point to you for a correct challenge, and you have 24 seconds to tell us something about jam, starting now.
Horsefly jam, nitty-gritty.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, you're getting another point there, correct challenge, and you have jam, and you have 31 seconds starting now.
My favourite jam is strawberry seedless jam, because the pips don't get...
Sorry. I was so excited because I love strawberry jam, and it was just automatic reflex. I do apologise. It wasn't meant to be a challenge.
Oh dear, because you interrupted, Stephen, he gets a point for that. He keeps the subject. He has 26 seconds. Jam starting now.
I used to make it when I was a child. Would pick the strawberries from a place...
And Claire.
Strawberries,
yeah. Right, Claire, you've got in. Another point to you. 22 seconds. Available jam starting now.
Which gives me a chance to explain what I was trying to do earlier, which was to sing a rap. It begins...
And,
We had a wee hesitation
we
there.
did indeed, Wendy. Yes, she was trying to say it and she couldn't get it out that time either. There are 17 seconds on jam. With you starting now.
I really love jam, especially on toast.
And why have you sounded, Stephen?
Well, I got excited when she said jam. This is fantastic.
Well, what you've done is a little tit for tat, which is very fair. You've given her a point because it was an incorrect challenge, and she keeps the subject. And 14 seconds on jam. Wendy, with you starting now.
It's very difficult to say.
Challenge, yes.
I'm going to go for hesitation.
I think you'll be right.
You should have drawn your breath before you came here.
I mean,
That is really unfair, Stephen.
Well,
No,
we have to
Wendy,
ask the,
I must be fair within just a minute. There was a full 2 seconds before you were quick on...
I was... only...
In this game, you have to get going much quicker than that. You know that. You've played it many times before with great success.
I know, and I've had this argument before.
Well, I've got to be fair within the rules of just a minute. So Stephen has a correct challenge, and he has 12 seconds. Jam starting now.
If you take lots of sugar, boil it up with the fruit of your choice, and make sure that you've got enough gelatine so it's nice and firm when you spread it.
Wendy, you've challenged.
Nice.
Nice, yes. She did nice before. She was determined to get you that time, Stephen. No matter what you said, she was going to get you that time. Right.
Examined by Perry Mason on drugs.
Wendy, you've cleverly got in with only 3 seconds on jam starting now.
Favourite jams are strawberry, gooseberry, lemon pear.
No, wait a minute. She was challenged us before that.
Strawberry from before.
No, she didn't say strawberry.
She did.
No, he said strawberry.
No, but you did too.
Yes, I know, but she wasn't playing the game at that
She
time.
said she wanted strawberry on jam on
She
toast.
said how much
I've
she...
given you another point then.
Thank
so
you.
Yes,
That's
you've
all
got
right.
another point with only half a second to go. Jam is with Wendy starting now. And then goes the whistle again.
Mum.
Oh, it's wonderful trying to control the show and also tell the chap to blow the whistle at the right moment. Anyway, Wendy Richard was then speaking as that whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. She's now equal in the lead with Stephen Frost. They're sitting side by side. There's a great needle match going on between them. And trailing a little behind them are Tony Hawks and Clare Balding. And who's going to begin the next round? It is Clare Balding. April showers. Oh, tell us something. We're in the month of April, but tell us about the showers, starting now.
I think this is a phrase that they put into the travel guides when they're trying to sell holidays to Britain, to Americans, to just make up for the fact that it rains all the time in April. April showers sound so much more charming than the fact that you just thought spring is here, you've walked out into the park wearing a T-shirt and shorts for the first time, and it starts to pee down with the wet stuff. And you find that your breasts are on show to all sorts of strangers in the park.
Oh, who's challenged? Tony.
I was getting carried away.
I'm afraid that got me rather excited.
So what is your challenge when the rules are just a minute?
This would be deviation and, complete deviation.
No, I think the picture she painted was quite clear to me, actually. I was a bit carried away. Rather excited. I'm going to let her continue. I'm enjoying this particular part of the show. But Tony, we enjoyed the challenge, so we give you a bonus point for a delightful challenge. But Claire gets a point for being interrupted and continues on April showers with 37 seconds available starting now.
As you wander outside wearing, as I said, very little, you will find that the wet water that is falling upon you...
Yes, Tony.
Repetition of wet.
Yes, you had a bit too much wet before.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You did try and get out of it with a rather prosaic word, but we won't emphasise that. 32 seconds, Tony. April showers, starting now.
Though April showers may come your way, they bring the showers that bloom in...
Who's challenged? Yes, showers.
Deviation out of tune.
I sang the wrong words, actually, didn't I?
I know. You
He
didn't
did.
have him for... Well, yes, darling.
No, he did. He sang the wrong words.
Yeah.
I know, but that wasn't the challenge. It was for the wrong tune. And I think you can take
wrong programme as well.
And the wrong programme, right? You can take... If you had him for the wrong words, I would have given it to you. But the fact that he was on the wrong tune doesn't matter, because you can take a song and put it to the wrong tune. They often do it in... I'm sorry, I haven't a clue.
It's not actually the wrong tune. He said he was out of tune, but that was the right tune for April showers.
Well, if it's out of tune, it's the wrong tune, isn't it?
No.
I just say we've got to hurry up because we've got to clear it by 6. We've got to do a remake of Crossroads, isn't it?
Right, so it's an incorrect challenge. So, Tony, you keep the subject of April showers. You have 26 seconds starting now.
April showers me with gifts every time I go round to her house. She finds me so attractive, and who wouldn't? After all, I am a very charming and delectable man indeed. But less of that and more of April showers that come from the sky. They fall down onto your head and you become damp and your breasts become very... like that, right?
I think he's definitely a deviant.
If that is true, he is a deviant, but I will give it to you because it is deviation, because I cannot believe, however wet the weather, his breasts could become all peculiar like that. And so, Wendy, correct challenge, and there are 8 seconds on April showers starting now.
April showers give one the impression of a light rainfall.
Yes.
There's a bit of a stumble there, wasn't there?
Bit of a stumble, I'm afraid there was.
You're thinking about your dog again, weren't you?
So, Stephen, you've got 4 seconds on April showers starting now.
This is when the rain falls down quite lightly in the month of April. That's why it's called April showers.
Right. Stephen Frost speaking as the whistle went, gain that extra point if you're interested in the points, because I always think the contribution's more important than that. But Stephen is he's out in the lead, where he was in the lead before, but it's only 1 ahead of Wendy Richard, and just behind them, not many points separating them, is Tony Hawks and Clare Balding in that order. And Wendy, your turn to begin. The subject, midlife crisis. Can you... Don't be unkind. It's a wonderful subject. It's a very important, it's a very significant subject. I'm sure that...
very dear to your heart, obviously.
Thank you, Claire. Why do you always clap when they're rude to me? That's what I want to know. Anyway, no, I think I passed my midlife crisis. I'm reaching my elderly crisis. But, anyway, midlife crisis is the subject, and Wendy, and you start now.
I think midlife crises come in many shapes and forms.
Yes, Tony.
I'm sorry to be a bit smug here, but it's crises, I think.
I'm very glad you said that, because you did sound so
crisis.
smug.
That's what's written on the card. Do you want to read it?
Is the plural of that crises?
Yes, it is, but it's not written. It's written as midlife crisis.
But Wendy said crisis is. That's what he's trying to... Should we take him to one side and get through this again?
I think it was too smug a challenge. Anyway, carry on. I was showing off in a horrible way, and everyone hates me.
Well, I'm afraid those who haven't had your classical education might well talk about crises. But, and we do, of course, in EastEnders, they accept that. And therefore, let's be generous to Wendy on this occasion and say, Wendy, don't say it again. We carry on a midlife crisis. 56 seconds starting now.
Midlife crisis can take many shapes and forms. As far as I was concerned, I had a midlife crisis the other morning when my washing machine flooded all over the kitchen floor. I had to get a mop and bucket, well actually I didn't, somebody else did it for me, and clear up all this mucky stuff that had suddenly appeared from behind this piece of apparatus. Other times...
Claire.
Hesitation, I know you were
struggling, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you were. I think
you
you
don't.
were going with...
You hate me, don't you, Nicholas?
I've been generous to you.
To be interrupted.
I think it's very laudable to have a midlife crisis when someone else clears up a mess for you.
Frightfully grand.
No, I disagree with Claire's challenge. And I don't think you were hesitating.
Thank
so you can carry on with your midlife crisis. Tell us more about the traumas and dramas in your life. And there are 35 seconds to do it, starting now.
The character I play in EastEnders is called Pauline Fowler, and she has had so many midlife crises.
Yes.
Is that her?
Yes.
I didn't know it was you. I'm a big fan. Hello, you. Fantastic. I'm wondering who this was going on next.
Have you got a photo for him?
Of the washing machine.
So, give a bonus point to Stephen because we enjoyed the challenge, or that will join the interruption. But as you were interrupted, you get a point for that, Wendy, and you continue on midlife crisis starting now.
Well, that character has had so many midlife crises.
Tony, yes.
Repetition of character.
Yes, you mentioned the character you played, Pauline, before.
Right.
Yes. I'm not being unkind to you, Wendy.
No.
It was correct. Tony Hawks has got the subject. He's got 27 seconds. He's got a midlife crisis. And, well, he hasn't got a midlife crisis. He's got the subject of midlife crisis. And you start now.
I had a midlife crisis when my cooker broke down and Jeeves the butler took 25 minutes to fix it. I was...
Wendy.
I'm challenging him. He's taking the mickey out of me. He's just trying to copy what I said, so really, that is repetition.
Yeah.
No, you
and
can
it was
take,
not
you can
said
take
so
anybody else's
nicely as I
material and
did.
recycle it if you want, as long as you don't repeat yourself any of the other words. Anybody could. It wouldn't make a boring...
It's obvious what he's doing. There's not an original thought came out then.
Pauline Fowler.
I know it is.
You can't disagree with her. She's a goddess.
Yes,
I can't get the frying pan out in a minute.
Leave it out. This is family. Leave it out. Family, leave it out.
Actually, that's not my family says that, Nicholas.
Isn't
That's
it? Which
the
family is
Mitchells,
it then?
but we're the nice ones.
Yeah.
So what is the... I know it isn't, darling, yes. But what is your challenge within the rules of Just a Minute?
What I said, really, his was repetition, because he was just reiterating what I had said earlier on.
I know, but that's not one of the rules of Just a Minute. He can repeat it all if he can remember it. And so, I'm sorry, it's an incorrect challenge.
I'm
so
not
you
sorry,
have a
I'm
point for that.
What do you mean he can repeat everything I've said if he can remember
Wendy,
it?
darling, I love you dearly. I've known you for years. And you played this game many times. Anybody can recycle anybody
You're
else's...
changing the rules.
I'm not changing...
Yes, you are, because we got into trouble with our strawberries, didn't we?
We're going to have a punch up
Warning,
these.
midlife crisis. It isn't the end of the world. It is just a game.
He hasn't said those words before. So, Tony, you have an incorrect challenge and a point, and you have midlife crisis and 19 seconds starting now.
Some people say that the midlife crisis...
And who some people say?
He said stay, didn't
I
he?
know,
So
he's got
stay.
all over it.
Yeah,
He's been intimidated by the opposite sex.
Worked, right? No, I'll do it first, and then you interrupt me, and you can actually get the point. Yeah, you couldn't mind me just for me, I'll go off for a pint.
Stephen, 17 seconds. Your midlife crisis now, starting now.
I remember the first time I saw someone having a midlife crisis. It wasn't a pretty sight. Their hair was falling out, they were crying and dribbling, and in fact...
And whose challenge? It's Tony.
He was looking in the mirror.
Oh, they're so rude to each other. Tony, the audience laughs, so we give you a bonus point. And Stephen, you still have the subject, and a point for being interrupted, and 8 seconds starting now.
If one has a midlife crisis, the first thing to remember is... Don't...
Yes, Wendy.
I think there was hesitation.
There definitely was. I'm always fair, Wendy. Correct challenge. Another point to you. Let's hear more about... And you've cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go. It pays to wait, you see. Because you'll probably keep going for these 2 seconds on your midlife crisis, starting now.
Midlife crisis can occur to most people.
Wendy Richard speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. So let me give you now the final situation or the final score. Well, Clare Balding, who hasn't played the game as much as the others, came actually in fourth place, but a very good, a very strong fourth place, yes. She was bringing up the rear. If he'd been on horseback, of course, she'd been way out in the lead. And then came Tony Hawkes. If he'd been on horseback, he'd have been way, way behind by now. And if Stephen had been on horseback, he wouldn't have been in the show at all. But Wendy Richard, who takes to the air with such a plum, and did so well, 1 point ahead of Stephen. So we say, Wendy, you're our winner today. Yes. Everybody's happy about that. And this is a fun game that really gets the adrenaline going, and all kinds of things can happen. But we've enjoyed ourselves, so let me say on behalf of our talented guests, Tony Hawkes, Clare Balding, Wendy Richard, Stephen Frost and myself, Nicholas Parsons, we hope you've enjoyed the show today, and you'll want it with us the next time we play Just a Minute. Until then, from us all, goodbye! Hello and welcome to Just a Minute, this exciting, intriguing and often challenging game in which I ask my four guests to speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviating from the subject. Let us now meet the four exciting guests who are going to play this show today. Well, we welcome the award-winning comedian Linda Smith. Beside Linda is Mr. Showstopper himself, Gary Wilmot, and on my left, star of stage and screen, Ida Blair, and beside her, the multi-talented Gyles Brandreth. Please welcome all four of them. And they will score points or lose points according to how well and successfully they may challenge. And let us begin the show with Linda Smith. Linda, here's a good subject. If I ruled the world. Talk on that subject in this game starting now.
If I ruled the world, every day would be the first one of spring is approximately the lyrics that Sir Harry Seacombe sung in that song. But if I ruled the world, it would be rather a different story to those charming sentiments. If I ruled the world, for example, such phrases as "the caller knows you have called and is keeping you waiting" would be carry a mandatory death sentence.
Yes, Gyles.
I'm so in agreement with her.
That was a solidarity buzz.
It was a solidarity buzz combined, though, with the suggestion of a bit of hesitation.
There was a bit of hesitation, so that is a correct challenge, and Gyles Brandreth not only gets a point for a correct challenge, he takes over the subject. And by the way, for those who are maybe new to the game, there are a few occasionally, they can repeat every word on the card or the whole phrase if they wish. Gyles, there are 35 seconds still available. Will you take on the subject, If I Rule the World, starting now?
If I ruled the world, every day would be the 14th of March, which happens to be my wife's birthday, that of Albert Einstein and Michael Caine. Not a lot of people know that. It would become a national holiday, and people would bow down and worship a graven image of my darling espoused lady, the woman in my life, who gives me lust, who gives me a reason for living. I believe if I ruled the world should actually go and pour itself out at her feet, because there is nobody greater in humanity than this gorgeous person, once a virgin, still in the eyes of all, somebody who could be celebrated like a holy lady.
Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Gyles Brandreth, so he's taken a lead at the end of that round. And if Michelle Brandreth is listening, I do hope you're not blushing too deeply.
I have to explain, Nicholas, at the Relate meetings they said try something like that.
Right. Gary Wilmot, let's hear from you. Oh, and what a good subject for you. Records, a man who's gone for many and has got record-breaking songs that you reprise for us. But talk on the subject, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Some of my favourite records are the ones that are... Indeed, who can go for a whole minute without speaking will be a great record.
Oh, Gary, we love having you on the show. He has such good value. He went for 3 seconds, though. He did not bad.
That's a record. Yo!
But 57 seconds are still available for you, Isla, on a correct challenge, having got a point for that, and it is records starting now.
I've got a collection of records that I can't bring myself to throw out, even though I never use them anymore. 2 very special records I've got were given to me by the Beatles. I did a film with those people, but unhappily I was cut out of it because I had a love scene with Paul McCartney, and the producers of that particular picture decided that having a kiss with a...
Linda, yes.
I'm sorry, I was fascinated by the story, and I hope you'll tell us more later.
I wanted to hear about your love affair with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
That was all agog. Linda, what have you done? My education has been neglected.
Well, I might make a mistake yet, and it might go back to Isla.
Of course, of course. But Linda, correct challenge, and that's what the game's all about, and you get a point for that, and you've got the subject, and there are 36 seconds. Records starting now.
I used to work at the Royal Artillery Records and Manning Office, and it was the most extraordinarily tedious job I've ever had, largely because there was literally no work to be done. It was completely meaningless. So we used to pretend to have something to do, and one of my colleagues thought it would be terribly amusing to put the name of his immediate superior printed on every single sheet of toilet roll in the executive toilet, and he did that, and that filled up a good hour.
Oh dear, I wanted to hear the rest of that story too. But you came in there, Gyles.
A couple of toilets.
There was too many toilets.
You can't have too many facilities.
You're quite right. Gyles, you have 10 seconds available to tell us something about records starting now.
Incredible as it may seem, that I have held the record for the longest ever after... I'm sorry.
Yes, Isla, your challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation.
Yes, he stumbled, which I interpret as hesitation, yes. And you wouldn't have thought that he once held the longest after-dinner speech record. In fact, at one time we held it jointly, didn't we? Yes.
We are a couple of record holders ourselves.
Right,
We've got a couple of something else ourselves as well.
Jointly in the Guinness Book of Records, we spoke for 11 hours to raise money for charity. You're right. Isla, a correct challenge. You'll get a point for that. You've got 6 seconds on records, starting now.
The little bit that I did in this picture landed up on the cutting room floor. But before I left them...
Very good. Very good. Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes, gain that extra point. It was on this occasion Isla Blair, who's now equal with Gyles Brandreth in lead. And Isla, this is the subject, muck spreading. Why should the lovely Isla Blair be given muck spreading, I ask myself. But still, it's a good subject to talk about, starting now.
One Saturday morning, as I was preparing to go to work, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, a large, tattooed man stood there and said, "Lady, I've come to do some muck spreading if you'd like me to. Horse manure, beautiful stuff."
Gyles, you challenge first.
Oh, it's like Jack and Nori, the way she tells it. It's wonderful. I really do want to hear the rest of it, but I felt there was a bit of a hesitation, that was all.
There was a bit of a hesitation. She had you for a bit of a hesitation before, so I've redressed the balance, Gyles. You had the benefit of the doubt. You have 47 seconds. Muck spreading starting now.
M-U-C-K spells muck. And there's too much of it about now, especially on television. I have to tell you, it is quite unusual to be in a programme like this where you're invited to wear your clothes. Normally people appear naked now on the box. Indeed, I have to explain to my children that once upon a time, in the days when things were in black and white and there was Andy Pandy, Noddy and Looby Loo on the...
Gary, you come in there with a hesitation.
Yes, it was hesitation.
Yes, I'm glad you made up your mind quickly.
Yeah.
And you have got muck spreading. Tell us something about it. The 27 seconds available, starting now.
I love going down to Devon during the summer months. Indeed, I find much work down there. But one of the most irritating things about driving to the West Country is that you may find yourself stuck behind one of two things: a white caravan or something spreading muck all over.
Myra, you've challenged.
Yes. Hesitation.
Hesitation. Myra, you've got 13 seconds. Tell us more about muck spreading, starting now. Oh, the Muck dried you up, did he? Giles got in first. Another point to Giles for a correct challenge. And 11 seconds, Muck spreading, Giles starting now.
I understand that even Gardener's question time now, the people invited to be on it appear starkers. Can you imagine cutting the hibiscus with nothing on? No, this apparently was for Naturist Week. I have never seen such...
I was begging for deviation on that. They don't appear naked.
Yes,
That's not the reason they go.
They did. The audience will vouch for it. It's the only time we ever watched, wasn't it? Yes.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It's when they went to a nudist colony. Yes. And they all took their clothes off to appear on the show.
That's right.
That's right. Yes, they did.
It's on the radio, Gardener's Question Time.
Well, this is on the radio as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Were they pruning hollyhocks or anything?
No, the hollyhocks were all right. It's when they started pruning the roses with all those thorns.
Because you can't let
and
a frost get at them, you know, because the minute you do...
Well, no, you've got to get frost get at you if you're the
hollyhocks.
starkers, yes.
Yeah.
You know, pruning the rose trees with you're naked, you know, and... well, I don't want to go into the details. But it was correct, yes. So Giles was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. He's strengthened his lead at the end of the round, and it is his turn to begin. Pumpernickel, that's a good subject. Giles, go on that if you can in this game, starting now.
I have a sausage dog called Pumpernickel, a sophisticated French poodle by name Fido, spelt P-H-Y-D-A-U-X, and a mongrel who thinks he glories in the nomenclature down boy. Well, I have to tell you that Pumpernickel was the rascal who...
Right, Gary's just challenged you.
You're deviating all over the place.
No, I'm telling you about Pumpernickel the dog.
No, you went from Pumpernickel to the other animals in your
It's a menagerie. This is a menagerie story.
I know, but Pumpernickel is the subject, Giles. And you went away from Pumpernickel into the rest of your menagerie that exists at home.
As you will discover in a moment, there is more to be told.
Well, maybe, but it looked like deviation to me, and I mean, I'm on Nicholas's side here.
I'm so pleased because I'm completely on your side, Gary. And so is the audience, by the way. Because I want to hear from you on Pumpernickel, because you've got in with 46 seconds to go, starting now.
I once had a horse called Pumpernickel. I loved nothing better than the week.
Yes,
I'm not sure it was. I thought it was a hesitation, but it was a lovely laugh, so maybe I was being mean.
Well, you weren't being mean. You were just playing the game with fun, which is what it's all about. But he didn't actually deviate because he may have had a horse called Pumpernickel.
I thought. No, I thought.
No. He giggled through his laugh, through his dialogue, so he didn't actually hesitate. Gary, keep going, but try not to giggle too much as you do it.
Oh, do I have to? All right, then.
Pumpernickel still with you. Another point for a correct challenge. 42 seconds starting now.
Come the weekend, I like nothing better than running down to the farm there and jumping on Pumpernickel's back and running down to the shop to buy some pumpernickel.
Yes.
Sorry to say, but there were 2 runnings.
You were running too fast.
Was I really?
Yes, you were running an awful lot.
Oh,
So Linda's got in with the correct challenge, and she's got 35 seconds on Pumpernickel starting now.
Pumpernickel is in fact a black, flat, very rich-tasting German bread that's full of little seeds and such like, and resembles in appearance a sort of cork tile that was once so popular for bathrooms in the 70s and actually looked rather awful in my opinion. But anyway, I wouldn't suggest you use them in your bathroom because I think they're quite...
Giles.
A repetition of bathroom and also very poor taste. Because at our home we've got Pumpernickel on the floor in the bathroom, and it's actually quite attractive in its own way.
Is that so if all these dogs you've got make a mess, they can't see it?
Am I going to get to tell you about Pumpernickel?
You've got 15 seconds, you can do it now, starting now.
Well, I have to tell you that Pumpernickel ate Spot the goldfish, and there weren't many remains. What he regurgitated up, we put in a bit of toast and took into the garden, and there was this memorial service.
Why have you challenged, Gary?
regurgitation.
Why?
Oh, is that not one of the rules?
Hesitation, repetition, and regurgitation. Yes, sir. We can enlarge it for you on future occasions. I loved it. What we do there, I give him a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but it wasn't a correct challenge within the rules of just a minute. So, Giles, you get a point for being interrupted. You keep the subject of Pumpernickel. There's 7 seconds available starting now.
Pumpernickel attended the memorial service, tail between his legs, as I recited the funeral ode. It went like this. Oh, wet pet.
Giles Brandreth speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point again and has increased his lead. He's followed by Isla and Gary Wilmot in second place, then Linda Smith, and Linda begins the next round. Linda, the subject Oh, the national debt. You know anything about it? If not, try and talk on it. That's the whole point of Just a Minute. Starting now.
The national debt is a rum old do, in my opinion, because it's nothing like personal debt. Now, personal debt, if you're slightly overdrawn, a snotty letter ensues immediately and...
Gary, you challenge.
I left it, but it's personal.
That's
It's a
well left.
repetition of-
Oh, very generous. You leave it and then come in late.
Well, I used to be a rugby referee. You can wait for up to a week before you give the decision.
You can, yes. But don't come back next week and be on the show and say, I want to challenge Linda for something this year. No, you challenged within the round. She did repeat personal, so well listened. The national debt's with you, 49 seconds, starting now.
If only the great Nicholas Parsons would sell some of his divine jackets, I'm sure the money raised would wipe the national debt just like that. What a glorious dresser this man is.
Hesitation, deviation, I mean, the whole works.
And indeed, regurgitation.
Absolutely.
I was feeling that then.
I think you were waiting for the audience to applaud. I was, yes, actually, but so was I as well, actually. But you have a correct challenge of hesitation. So it is the national debt with you, Gyles, starting now. Oh, you want another seconds? 37 seconds starting now.
National Velvet was one of my favourite films. National Debt I have not seen. But when I was in the last government, I was a Lord Commissioner of the Treasury, and one of the jobs was to sign the cheques for the country. And what we did was gather at the Treasury and be produced...
Well, listen, Isla, yes.
You're right.
Two treasuries?
Yes.
Repeated the
Well,
treasure.
you're very sharp. You're soft, but sharp.
She's talented.
She is talented.
And she plays the game very well. 20 seconds available for you, Isla, on the national debt, starting now.
The national debt is something that I find so depressing I don't like to think about it very often. The point is we're all getting older. We're told that all the time. All.
No, just speak for yourself, I'm going to say. Carry on. You're a child.
So what are you challenging on?
I'm not challenging. I'm just, it's absurd. She's not getting older. She's getting younger with a minute.
Right, so you wanted to keep going.
God, I wanted to keep
Well,
going.
she gets a point for being interrupted. So, Isla, you have another point. You've still got the subject. You have 11 seconds. The national debt starting now.
The point is we're all expected to have our own pensions in future. The national debt is something that we simply can't cover things like this. The health service, education, why aren't we taxed more?
Isla Blair was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and she's moved forward. She's still in second place. Giles Brandreth still in the lead, and there's Gary Wilmot and Linda Smith in that order. Gary Wilmot, your turn to begin. Family trees. Good subject. Can you speak on it as long as you wish, within 60 seconds, starting now?
When I bought my very first house, I dug a big hole in the garden and put in a tree. We call that tree our family tree, although it's not exactly all right.
And Isla, you've challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes,
I'm afraid there was.
veritable
yes.
forest of trees there, wasn't
Yeah, I
it?
know, yes. So 54 seconds for you on family trees, starting now.
There's a small village in Scotland called Kettins, which is where my family come from. And in the graveyard, there's a very big tombstone with an amazing amount of names on it. One of them is Jacobea Blair, someone who was killed in the Jacobite rebellion.
You've challenged.
Oh, I don't know if it's a correct challenge. Jacobean and Jacobite.
No, Jacobea and
Jacobite.
Jacobite.
Jacobea
Yeah, I know,
and
yes,
Jacobite.
yes,
No,
yeah.
no, don't worry, don't
No,
worry.
I've messed it up now, haven't I?
It's just lovely to hear from you. And all that happens is Isla gets another point for an incorrect challenge. And she continues with 37 seconds on family trees with you, Isla, starting now.
A lot of my family got killed at Culloden. The ones that didn't were moved away in the Highland clearances. Some of them went to Canada, some of them went to India.
You've challenged.
Again, interesting story, but a lot of
It
sons.
was a very sad story. I was almost in tears, all your ancestors.
I'm going to wait for the movie. I thought.
Blair, the movie, yes, Blair, the movie, right. You're no relation, are you? You couldn't be the way you speak.
To Tony?
No. Or Lionel.
No.
Furthest removed possible, I'd have thought, from both of you. Linda, you had a correct challenge, and there are 27 seconds available. Family trees, starting now.
Family trees make very bad pets, I think, because if you've got a family tree, you can't really throw a branch for it. It will be cannibalism and not very attractive. I think a dog or a cat or a goldfish or budgerigar, something of that order, makes a much better companion for a group of people linked by relation.
Isla.
Is this deviation at all?
Yes,
Are we
it's
talking
well
about...
away from family trees onto pets, yes?
Might be.
Yes, it is. Might be, it was, indeed. That's why I interpret that one. So, Isla, another point to you, and 10 seconds available. Family trees. Oh, can't move us further with the family history. 10 seconds, starting now.
It's very easy to find out your family tree. All you have to do is go to Somerset House. You can look up large volumes there, and lo and behold, people your ancestors...
So Isla Blair kept going to the whistle went and has got another point for doing so, and others in that round has meant that she has leapt forward, and you are now in the lead, Isla, at the end of that round. Yes, yes. And it's your turn to begin as well.
Oh, no.
Hurdles. It's a hurdle coming on the show, and you've conquered many of those hurdles in this show. But now speak on the subject of hurdles. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
All of us in life meet hurdles, hurdles that have to be overcome. In my profession, they're called casting directors. These people prevent you from being seen for a part you are convinced you're perfect for. If you're lucky enough to get an audition, you meet someone another hurdle. He calls himself a director. This young child sits you down, makes you read because he's never heard of you, and then makes you do truly embarrassing things like pretend to be a yogurt pot, or sing snatches from Andrew Lloyd Webber films, or read, or... Awful. Thank
Linda.
you.
It's just too upsetting, really. It's humiliation for
And I'll
you.
never work again,
It's not
will I?
right. It's absolutely not right.
You've not had a happy life, really, have you? No.
No, it's very sad.
In the legit theatre, it works. It is true. But there we are. But not for everyone. But we've always suffered it at different times. But she did repeat the word read. Well, listen, Linda, you've got hurdles, and you have 28 seconds starting now.
Hurdles were a potato-based snack food that never really caught on. They were like little tiny shapes in the form of Douglas Hurd. And they were different flavours, salt and vinegar, smoky bacon, beef, cheese and onion, that sort of thing. And people just didn't seem to like them. It seemed to frighten people as they opened the packet. And
Gary, you've challenged.
Repetition of people.
Yeah, there were too many people there.
Too
I
many
love
people.
the little hurdles, yes. Right. 10 seconds for you to tell us something about hurdles, Gary, starting now.
When I was at school, athletics was something that I really enjoyed doing. We had our own field where we had a long jump, a high jump, but the thing I loved more than anything else was, in fact, the hurdles.
Right, Gary Wilmot was speaking as a whistle and getting an extra point for doing so, and he's moved forward. Isla Blair still in the lead, and Gyles Brandreth, your turn to begin. The subject, my wardrobe. Can you tell us something about my wardrobe, starting now?
I began my career as an actor. I was not very good. My first role was as the moody Dane, for which I still have the costume in my wardrobe. I went on as Hamlet. The audience threw eggs at me. I came off as Omelette. And therefore, I put away the skull, the doublet and hose from those days, and now I keep my wardrobe full of jumpers. Indeed, it isn't just one wardrobe, it's a series of rooms with charcoal on the floor, because the problem with woolen items is that they get, like rather the things I say, full of moths, old and tired and tatty. So I keep in my wardrobe all this beautiful...
And you've challenged the
I thought there were two fools there, but am I wrong?
Full, yes, the wardrobe was full. There were two keeps as well, but full's good enough for me. And Isla, you take over my wardrobe with 24 seconds to go, starting now.
My wardrobe is very depressing again. I'm sorry to have to tell you that, but I've got too many clothes, most of which come from the 1970s. Large platform shoes. Actually, they're coming back into fashion now. But my wardrobe is literally bulging with things that I can never wear. Alas, I've got too fat for a lot of them, so I have to get things in different...
Gyles, you've challenged.
She's not got too fat for anything. She is perfect. And I'm sitting close. I'm sitting absolutely close. She's perfect. I just wanted to say that, and I'll let her carry on. And I know her husband, too. Oh, it's sad life for her with a much older man.
What do you want to say, Gary?
We're deviating from the show, really, aren't we?
No, but it's enjoyable, isn't it?
It is enjoyable.
Yes, it is, right. But Gyles, you interrupted her, so she gets a point for being interrupted. We enjoyed the challenge because everybody agrees with you, and there are 6 seconds available, Isla, on my wardrobe starting now.
However, I started to weed my wardrobe the other day, and out went all sorts of extraordinary things that I haven't seen.
Isla Blair was speaking then when the whistle went, getting that extra point for doing so. She's increased her lead at the end of the round, followed by Gyles Brandreth, Gary Wilmot, Linda Smith in that order, and Linda, it's your turn to begin. The subject, Girl Friday. Are you one? If not, talk about it. 60 seconds starting now.
Girl Friday. I always used to find that a very confusing advert in the newspapers when people would advertise wanting a Girl Friday. What is this Girl Friday, I would think? Does it mean you just go into the office on a Friday? That sounds like the sort of job for me. One day a week, I think I could manage that all right, and I think that probably would be, in the name of God, will no one interrupt me?
Gary, you interrupted her.
Yeah, thinks. There were loads of thinks in there.
Well, no, just come on, don't rub it in.
No, there were loads. There were, I don't know how many I counted at least 8.
All right.
Oh.
No, there was 2, I think.
There were 2. That's enough for this game. There are 37 seconds for you to tell us something about a Girl Friday starting now.
I think that Girl Friday is, in fact, a person who does go into the office one day a week, that day being Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday would be days that they wouldn't attend such a...
Gyles?
A feast of days, not all of them attached to a woodward firth of... You see what I mean?
Yes, you did repeat the word days.
Did I?
Not after Thursday, Sunday, but you did say they were not days.
Oh, did I?
Yes, you did, yes.
Oh, right.
It's a difficult game, isn't it?
No, it's a doddle.
Gyles, you've had a correct challenge. You have another point, of course. 27 seconds still available on Girl Friday starting now.
You will not have heard of King's Cross Bear because he got off at the wrong station. The same goes for Man Wednesday, whereas Girl Friday is my kind of person. In my dreams, of course, Isla Blair would be a perfect person for this role because she combines intelligence with great beauty and a kind of intellectual brilliance that is quite extraordinary.
You challenged Isla.
I had to stop you. This is so embarrassing.
He does that on this show. He does it, yes. But
do you like it? Or not much?
I'm not saying a word.
We'll talk about it later.
Had 5 seconds. No, I'll give it to Isla Blair because she's embarrassed. Isla, you've got 5 seconds on Girl Friday starting now.
There's another term for Girl Fridays. They're called gophers. They hang around film studios. They get up.
So, Isla Blair again was speaking as the whistle went. Gained an extra point for doing so. She's increased her lead. Head of Gyles Brandreth, then the other 2 follow. And Gary Wilmot, your turn to begin. Eureka! Tell us something about that subject in just a minute, if you can. Starting now.
Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer have a girl on their show called Eureka Johnson. What a beautiful woman she is. However, her name, of course, isn't Eureka, it is Ulrika. Eureka is very often shouted when somebody has achieved something, i.e. if they're in the hurdles and they cross the finishing line quicker than anybody else, they say Eureka. But really, the word Eureka is associated with somebody who has invented something and has
Gyles, you got in first.
He was just, I think, coming up with something.
He was, but it didn't come up, unfortunately. It stayed down. And there was a pause, so you got another point. You've got 36 seconds. Eureka, starting now.
Eureka is Greek for this bathwater is far too hot. And was first shouted by...
Gary.
Well, that's simply not true, is it?
Of course it's not true, but it's a lovely line.
Is it not true?
No, it's not true. No, it was...
oh, your Greek's better than mine.
I see. It isn't. It was Archimedes who suddenly said, I've got it. That's what Eureka means. He suddenly saw the answer and he leapt out of his bath. He was in his bath, but it wasn't too hot. It's a lovely line. We enjoyed it, but it's incorrect, so it was deviation. So, Gary, you have 30 seconds on Eureka, starting now.
As I pressed that buzzer just now, I felt like saying, Eureka, I have done it. I've stopped Gyles Brandreth in mid-flow from speaking for 1 minute without hesitation, repetition, or indeed...
deviation.
Oh, you got all 3 then, didn't you?
So Gyles got in first. So well done, Gary, but bad luck. So 18 seconds. Eureka, back with you, Gyles, starting now.
Eureka is indeed a beautiful word in an ancient language. Not, of course, Latin. I know that in loco parentis means my dad's an engine driver. But what Eureka truly means, it has been mistranslated on this program already by our chairman, who thinks he knows it all. But Eureka is something he's not familiar with, though indeed he went to a university and trained as an engineer.
So Gyles Brandreth was then speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point for doing so, and not only brought that round to a close, He's brought the show to a close. Oh. Well, sorry, he didn't brought the show to a close.
Yes, I know the feeling, that's all right.
Eureka, he's done it! So he got a point, of course, for speaking. The whistle went, and the situation is, for those interested in the points, Linda came fourth, then Gary Wilmot, then Gyles Brandreth, but just out in the lead, 2 points ahead of all the rest was Isla Blair. She's our winner this day. This time around, it's Isla Blair. So it only remains me to say thank you to our 4 exciting and talented players of the game, Linda Smith, Gary Wilmot, Isla Blair, Gyles Brandreth. From them, from me, hope you've enjoyed Just a Minute. Be with us the next time you play this delightful game. Till then, goodbye. And once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Just a Minute, and I have 4 exciting and talented people in the studio with me today who are going to play this wonderful game. They are the delightful actress Liza Goddard, and from the Comedy Store, Richard Morton, and that skilled musician and comedy performer, Richard Vranch, and that fine and ever-popular comedy player, Tom O'Connor. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask my guests to speak on the subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. And we begin the show today with Liza Goddard, and who better? Liza, the subject is saying sorry. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I'm very good at saying sorry. I never hesitate to apologise when I'm in the wrong. If I...
Someone's challenged very rapidly. Tom O'Connor.
Repetition of I'm.
Oh.
I'm.
We had 2 I'ms and an I.
Oh, that's cruel.
This is tough challenge.
I know.
Is this the way it's going to go?
Worse than
no
this.
holds barred today, are there? Right. Yeah, well, that is a correct challenge, so I have to give it to you, Tom. And you have 56 seconds to say or tell us something about saying sorry, starting now.
I'd like to say sorry to Lisa for interrupting. Because you were looking.
Lisa's gone back in again.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes.
But thank you very much, and I accept it.
Right, so. So, a correct challenge, they get a point. Tom O'Connor's got 1 point. Lisa Goddard, you got a point for that for a correct challenge. And you've got the subject back, and there are 52 seconds available. Saying sorry, starting now.
My great-aunt Gracie is incapable of saying sorry, even when she's indisputably in the wrong. Opens her mouth to start saying sorry, and...
Tom.
Hesitating.
Hesitating, yes.
I think so.
Yes, teetering on the point of hesitation, which I will have to give the benefit of the doubt on occasions. Tom O'Connor, you've got it. Another correct challenge, another point to you. Saying sorry is still the subject. 42 seconds available, starting now.
I have to say sorry to the other 2 gentlemen because I keep interrupting, and they should have a go as well, so I'm going to mumble a bit.
So, Lisa, you challenge first,
I think he fell over a lot there.
I know, but you wanted one or 2 of the other fellas to come in.
Oh.
No, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Lisa, you got in first. Correct challenge, hesitation, real. Dear, a pause, so saying sorry is back with you, and there are 36 seconds starting now.
My elderly relative, her eyes bulge, her skin goes puce, beads of sweat break out on her forehead, roll.
Richard.
Repetition of the word her 3 times, I'm afraid.
Ooh.
Yes, Richard Morton, you've got a correct challenge. Yes. 27 seconds, Richard Morton. Tell us something about saying sorry, starting now.
As a man, I have great difficulty in saying sorry, even when I'm in the wrong, and when my partner says to me, you've done something wrong, I just go...
Richard Branch.
I think there were 2 wrongs there.
Yeah, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right, Rich.
So, Rich, but this case, Richard Branch, a correct challenge. Saying sorry with you, and 20 seconds starting now.
The British are definitely a nation of apologisers. It's very strange for foreigners who come here and bash into one of us that rather than apologising themselves...
Yes.
Oh, no. I was going to say apologise and apologise.
No, that's right. He said apologise and apologising.
Yes, he did.
Yes, right. So, an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
So, a point for that, Richard Branch. And you have 10 seconds saying sorry, starting now.
If I'm in the supermarket and someone bumps into me, as I get up from the floor, I am the person...
Tom O'Connor.
Repetition of I. We had 2 I's and an I'm.
Tom,
I don't want to be a sneak, but I heard him say 2 eyes on the line.
I know, Tom, but we're inclined to let little things like that pass.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I was just testing.
I know you were.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's a correct challenge. So within the rules of just a minute, I've got to give it to you. 5 seconds. Saying sorry, Tom. Starting now.
I have to say sorry to everybody concerned because I didn't actually realise that when you repeat a simple word like that...
No, before, but just half a second ago, who was it, Lisa?
He said he had a hesitation.
He did have another hesitation, so Lisa has got another point, and the subject of saying sorry, and half a second ago, starting now.
Saying...
Right. Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Liza Goddard, and you won't be surprised to know that she has taken the lead at the end of the round. Richard Morton, will you take the next round? Fishing. I don't even know anything about it, but talk on the subject, if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
Fishing, to me, is the most indescribably boring pastime I can think of. The idea of sitting by a river with a bit of wood and some string and a hook and some horrible little squiggly, ugly maglets. Maglets? Like maggots. They're not quite the same thing. They're baby maggots. Maglets. Everyone knows maglets.
You should have kept going. You should have kept going. Don't draw attention to it.
You said maglets twice.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Lisa, another correct challenge. 51 seconds on fishing, starting now.
I loathe fishing. We once were on holiday in California and took a boat on a fishing trip. And the man running the expedition made me put 5 hooks on my line and baited every one of them. And every...
Richard Morton.
Repetition of the word every.
Yes. Richard, a correct challenge. And there are 37 seconds. Fishing, starting now.
Meanwhile, back on the riverbank, I can't understand why this boring thing goes on. Why not get a 2-bar electric fire? It's best to stop me now, really. Can you see where I was going with that?
Put the maglets by the flyer.
Yeah. That's easy for you to say.
Richard Vranch, you had a correct challenge. 31 seconds. Fishing, starting now.
Fishing is supposed to be the most popular
Fishing's going to corpse them all, isn't it? Tom, yes, that's right.
He hesitated and blathered as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did. So you blather on now, if you can, for 27 seconds on fishing, starting now.
An Eskimo cut a hole in the ice, he put his fishing rod through, and he proceeded to go into the angling position, and a voice above him said, "There are no fish there." He said, "What?" "There are no fish there." Let me finish the gag.
Tom?
He said, "Is that the Lord speaking?" And the voice said, "It's the owner of the ice rink."
Right, an extra point to Tom O'Connor for ignoring the rules of just a minute to keep us entertained with a good gag. But Richard Vranch had a correct challenge, so he takes over fishing, and there are 16 seconds available, starting now.
Fishing is supposed to be a sport, but I don't think it is. It's not like football, for example, where you've got 2 evenly matched teams and a referee. With fishing...
Yes.
I think a marlin fisherman might disagree. I think that's an evenly matched team, isn't it? You know, because the marlin fish is huge.
Yes, but it's a man against the fish. It's not two...
Yes.
The point he was making is 2 teams fighting against each other.
Yes, well, I just thought I'd say that.
Well, I agree with you, because he jumped in on my gag anyway.
So an incorrect challenge, Richard. You keep the subject. 7 seconds. Fishing, starting now.
And what's even more unfair with fishing is that the man has got equipment and the little thing in the water which swims around has got nothing.
Richard Vranch was then speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point for doing so. And the end of that round, it's very even. Liza Goddard and Tom O'Connor are equal together just behind Richard Morton, who's in the lead. No, it isn't. It's Richard Vranch in the lead. Richard Vranch, your turn to begin. Self-made man. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
A self-made man is someone who thinks that everything they've achieved they've done with the help of nobody else, and I don't think it can be done. How can it be...
Yes, Lisa?
Done. He said done twice.
He did
I'm
done.
very sorry.
It can't be done. Lisa, you've got him in 51 seconds on this subject. A self-made... just self-made man, starting now.
I admire self-made men, Richard Branson, Billy Butlin, George Stubbs, but I think that cloning is the latest self-made man. Just think, you take a little
Repetition of the word think.
Think, yes.
Yes.
Think twice. Think.
Yes, you were thinking too much there.
I was.
But you were thinking, because you heard us say, repeat the word. So, Richard Morton, you got self-made man, and there are 39 seconds starting now.
As I was saying, you buy the riverbank, get a 2-bar electric fire, just lob it in, hey presto, dinner.
Lisa, you challenge.
I'm sorry, hesitation, wait for laugh.
Wait for laugh.
I know,
It'll
good
be here
gag.
forever then.
Fatal to wait for a laugh that doesn't come. I mean...
I wouldn't know.
I'm amazed that Richard has spoken so long and not said maglets.
I'll leave maglets out of this.
Right, Lisa, a correct challenge. Self-made man for 33 seconds, starting now.
Another self-made man is a snowman, because you make it yourself. Get snow,
Yes?
Hesitation, and also the word self was used twice there, repetition.
What is your challenge?
Hesitation.
No, she didn't hesitate.
Oh, she right then, she said self twice. Ha ha ha!
It's on the
said
card.
what twice?
It's on the card.
Ha, good. Just checking that everyone's in the same game.
You can repeat either the phrase on the card or
I knew
individual
that,
words.
I knew that.
You did know that. Then why did you challenge for it?
Because I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I have to say I'm sorry.
Overexcited.
I've been on the maglets all day.
This game creates such passion, you would never believe it. Right, calm down, all of you, and get going. Lisa, self-made man, and there are 26 seconds starting now.
Get the snow.
Oh, that's got to be hesitation that time.
No, it was only hesitation. She repeated the word snow.
Well, she went...
And hesitation. All right,
Yeah.
Richard, you're
All
in
right,
there. Self-made man. And there are 23 seconds starting now.
Is, of course, somebody who can make himself a millionaire by finding maglets, patenting them, and turning them into the biggest money turnover in the whole world. Maglets are, of course, the little...
Maglets. Having established you're going to go on maglets.
Did I say that twice? I think I did.
Yeah. So,
go on, talk about maglets.
Right. No, don't talk about magnets. Talk about self-made man. 15 seconds, Tom, starting now.
A self-made man could be a sculptor, of course, because he could make a bust of himself. Who knows? I mean, I think it's... I've just forgotten. I could repeat self when I did it. I'm sorry.
Lisa, you jumped in there and you got 10 seconds. Self-made man, starting now.
This sculptor starts with a model of clay, which he moulds very slowly with his hands into a form looking like himself. Then he casts it in rubber.
Tom, you got in first, didn't you?
We had at least 3 he's there.
Did we?
Yes.
He. Tough player.
I know.
All right, you've cleverly got him with half a second to go on self-made man, starting now.
Michelangelo could have been a self-made man because... He did say 3 years for the points.
So speaking as the whistle went, or speaking when the whistle should have gone, was Tom O'Connor. And at the end of that round, he's moved forward. He's one behind Lisa Goddard, who's still in the lead, and followed by Richard Vranch and Richard Morton in that order. Tom O'Connor, your turn to begin. The subject is agents. We all know something about them in our profession. Would you talk about them, if you dare, in just a minute, starting now?
I'm going to talk about agents without swearing. I have signed with an international agent, so I'm now out of work all over the world. Unlike a friend of mine...
Yes?
He paused for laughter. I hate to do that.
Well, then don't do it. Let him carry on.
All right, then.
All right. So, Tom, an incorrect challenge. You have another point. You have agents. You have 53 seconds starting now.
I was about to say, unlike a friend of mine, Mick Miller, who signed up with a pair of agents, 2 agents, and he rang up the office one day and he said, "Can I speak to the liar?" And the girl said, "He's not in today." He said, "Put the drunk on." She said, "He's gone to lunch." Agents are amazing people. You can sign...
Lisa, you challenge.
Hesitation.
It was hesitation that time, yes.
Good gag.
It was a good gag, yes.
It's called milking, actually.
39 seconds. Agents with you, Lisa, starting now.
007 is a famous agent invented by Ian Fleming, played by Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, and whatever the fellow's name.
Richard Vranch.
Pierce Brosnan.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, that was it. I was just going to tell Lisa.
Yes, that's right. No, well done, yes. The, you see, listing is very clever and very difficult, isn't it? So,
Very
Richard,
difficult, yeah.
you got in with 30 seconds on agent starting now.
Well, an agent is anyone who takes a percentage of the money by doing a deal. So it doesn't have to be a theatrical agent. It could, for example, be an agent for a catalogue company who goes around all their friends and relations getting orders for little booties for the babies and tank tops and wigs and things. And when they've collected up all of this information...
Yes, Richard.
A repetition of the word all. All. It was a great story, Rich.
It was going well, too, wasn't
Going
it?
awfully well.
11 seconds. Agents, with you, Richard Morton, starting now.
I would like to follow up Lisa's point about James Bond, because there'd be a marvellous Geordie version. My name's Bale Bond. What do you reckon? Do you like that?
Repetition of Bond, I think.
Yes, that's right. Well, it was a good gag. It didn't get much of a laugh, but it was a good gag. Right.
I only just thought it up.
I know. Well, that's, we had to think everything up on the spur of the moment here. Right. Tom, Agents is with you. You've got 5 seconds. A few more gags about them, starting now.
Agents could be, of course, the Washington agents.
No, I'm not going to allow it. He's got another gag on Agents.
Yeah,
right.
OK.
Right, go on, off you go, Tom.
Agents could be Washington agents,
I
that's it.
I just did that to see the look on your face.
Come on, Tom.
I don't
Agents.
care, I've got to tell you. Agents could be Washington agents, as in the gag... if it's...
Tom O'Connor endeavouring to speak as a whistle went, getting an extra point for doing so, and he'd actually taken the lead at the end of that round. Where are you working next week, Tom?
I'm not now.
Right, so Tom O'Connor, as I said, in the lead just ahead of Lisa Goddard, and Lisa Goddard, your turn to begin. Old tea bags. What do you think about this subject? Starting now.
There are many and varied uses for old tea bags. Personally, I put them on my eyes. They reduce swelling and puffiness and stimulate the lymphatic system. A friend of mine, though, was in a play, about to go on stage, put on her gloves filled with old tea bags. Another member of the cast had sabotaged them. We have a cat also called Old Teabags. He's very fat, he's brown, that's why he's called Old.
Tom.
And at least 3 he's there.
I know.
Yeah.
We let the he's and the I's go.
Oh, right,
usually,
go on.
the prepositions. Sorry, the pronouns. But, Tom, it was a correct challenge, so we give it to you. Old Teabags is with you. 37 seconds. Starting now.
I only wanted to do the gag about the person who had a boil on their posterior, and they put tea bags round it, and they went to see the doctor, and they said, "What is it?" And he said, "I don't know, but you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger."
Oh, dear. Oh, I like that one. Right, another gag on old tea bags, Tom, and there are 28 seconds starting now.
Oh, it's still me. All right.
Hesitation.
Oh, that's rotten. No, because he didn't know it was going to be him after the last time. No, we won't charge anything on that. Tom, you've got 26 seconds. Old tea bag starting now.
Old tea bags, of course, can be used again because people don't realise it.
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
time it was.
Thank you.
Lisa, you've got in with 22 seconds on old tea bags starting now.
Old tea bags are very useful in the garden. Camellias particularly love them. Put them on as a mulch. Stops the weeds growing, prevents the...
Richard Morton,
There
yes.
has to be hesitation, but prevents a... What kind of things do you grow in that
Calming
garden?
rays.
Yeah. Right. 13 seconds on old tea bags starting now.
Old tea bags may be used in a James Bond film, for example, or if it was a Geordie version, we could call it Golden Y.I. But I would prefer to have a coffee kind of drink.
Tom, yes.
There's got to be hesitation on
That
coffee.
was hesitation,
Oh,
yes, Tom.
nice.
You've got 4.5
yeah.
seconds on old tea bags starting now.
Old tea bags become old by constant use, naturally. It's a possibility.
Tom O'Connor was speaking as a whistle went in. That extra point for doing so has increased his lead at the end of that round. Richard Morton, take the next round. Magic. Tell us something about magic. Do you ever done any magic?
No.
Well, tell us something about magic.
Now's your chance.
Starting now.
Magic, to me, summons up the word Viagra, which is a substance I'm going to be needing very soon, I feel. But one must be very careful, as there have already been 15 fatalities in the USA already from this substance. 8 from...
Hesitation over use of from.
Was it?
Yes. Oh. No, it was hesitation.
What was I doing there?
What was your challenge?
Hesitation and overuse of from.
Which one do you want?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, right,
Okay.
that was correct. Right, 45 seconds. Magic with you, Lisa, starting now.
I once saw a magician who sawed a woman in half lengthways. Remarkable feat. Don't know how he did it. Of course, they won't tell you how these things...
Richard Morton challenge.
A little bit of hesitation.
There
but-
was
Little tiny
indeed,
bit.
Tiny.
Enough for this game. 35 seconds, Richard Morton. Magic starting now.
15 deaths, 8 from cardiac arrest, 7 from guys refused to take it and the wives beat the tar out of them.
Richard Vranch.
Pause for laugh again. Hesitation.
Well, he wasn't. No, he was trying to make a point. I don't know why. It was a sort of medical point, a sort of establishing the fact that he never wishes to take Viagra or something. I don't understand what it's all medical points you were making. And, Richard, Vranch, you have a correct challenge. You have magic. You have 29 seconds starting now.
I think magic is anything that you can't find a proper explanation for, or something that you don't know how it works. For example, the telephone is a fantastic invention where you can just pick the thing up and speak to someone on the other side of the world. And to me, that is magic. How on earth does this machine function? Why should you be able to do that? Aeroplanes, how do they stay up in the sky? One answer, magic.
Lisa.
He repeated how rather a lot.
I thought so.
You thought so? Didn't say anything about it, though.
And also he said magic like Paul Daniels. He went, magic!
Well, there's nothing devious in that. Right, Lisa, correct challenge. 7 seconds, magic starting now.
Paul Daniels and Debbie McGee are the apotheosis of magic in this country, or so would have you believe.
Who's the LP and who's the both is? Yes, right.
Can I tell you a very quick story about magic?
You can.
I couldn't get it in time. This is true. I was doing a live television show and we had a magician on. You know the people who get you on the stage and make a fool of you? And live on television, he dragged this bloke on stage and he said, if I put my hand in your inside pocket and pull out a rabbit, will you be surprised? And the fellow said, I'll be amazed. I've got a ferret in there.
Lisa Goddard was then speaking as a whistle-wind, gained that extra point for doing so, and she's now equal in the lead with Tom O'Connor, and equal in second place are Richard Morton and Richard Vranch. And Richard Vranch, your turn to begin. The subject, off the top of my head. And just to remind everybody, they can use the phrase or any word in that phrase as often as they... Not as often as they wish, but they can repeat that. But you go for 60 seconds if you can, Richard, off the top of my head, starting now.
Speaking off the top of my head is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm making it up as I go along. So it's the perfect subject for Just a Minute, because it encourages me to speak about anything. I can talk about any topic in the world, which means it's impossible for me to deviate from it. So, for example, I could start talking about Tibetan cookery.
Yes.
Repetition of the word talking.
Talking, yes, you were talking too much.
And he also said speak twice, but I just let you go, Rich, because it was a great story.
He said a couple of eyes as well.
Did he? A couple of eyes, Tom.
Lots of eyes.
Tom, have you got an eye meter under there? There's a couple of eyes.
He's got the eyes and the e's and he's and the his. Right, Richard, you had a correct challenge there. You have 43 seconds off the top of my head, starting now.
Paul Daniels was once asked why I wore a toupee, and he said, I don't know, just off the top of my head.
It got the groan it deserved, Richard.
I just made it up. You lot are hard.
I know.
It's like a pause for silence, that one.
Pause for silence.
I wouldn't wait for your laughs if I were you,
And do you know,
Richard.
15% of that silence, my agent's going to charge me.
Write it down.
Lisa, you got him with the correct challenge on hesitation. 37 seconds off the top of my head, starting now.
When I'm walking the dogs on a cold, windswept Norfolk beach, I wear a thing around my ears to protect them. And the rain and, that's wet stuff.
Hesitating on the thing round her head. And I wanted to hear about it as well.
I know, but you can't now because you've challenged.
I know.
Have you got the subject? And you've got 27 seconds off the top of my head, starting now.
Off the top of my head, I always think about hair. Of course, I used to have short hair. I don't have it now. Not as short as Rich's anyway, because that's like a crew cut. But,
repetition of the word hair, actually.
Yes, there was, yes. 19 seconds, Richard Morton's off the top of my head, starting now.
Off the top of my head would be something I would be doing right now, trying to think of something to say, because I've said the word something about 3 times. No one said something.
You know, you must not draw attention to it, because sometimes they let it go, or sometimes they don't notice it.
All right, then, but does this look real, or can you tell?
No.
Right. Lisa, you had a correct challenge. You have 13 seconds on off the top of my head, starting now.
Hail pings off the top of my head as I walk along. Very painful.
Sorry, I thought she was saying ping again, but she said pain. I beg your pardon.
You don't have to apologise. She gets another point because
Does
you got a challenge. And you got another point, Lisa, and you've got 7 seconds off the top of my head, starting now.
Thinking of subjects for this show off the top of my head is extremely difficult. The pressure is there. It's hot under the lights.
So Lisa Goddard was then speaking as a whistle. Gained that extra point for doing so and has taken the lead at the end of the round, ahead of Tom O'Connor and Richard Morton and Richard Vranch in that order. And Tom O'Connor, we're back with you. Your turn to begin. The subject is tipping. Tell us something about that in just a minute if you can. Starting now.
Tipping is the most peculiar thing, not just basically associated with Britain, but all over the world. It's hard to tell what to tip people. I always think of the story of the two fellas who were watching the show and they didn't applaud this year because nobody claps us coming out of the pit. Richard. And when I go abroad, I tend to tip in a most peculiar way. I always take American dollars because you can't tell how big an American dollar is unless you actually see the numbers. Because they're all the same size, they're all the same colour, one looks the same as 100, so I fold them up, you see. And when I tip people, I just give them a scrunched up dollar and they don't know whether it's 100 or not, so they don't actually look.
Yes. Repetition of 100?
Yes, you're going so well.
I was going extremely well, I thought.
27 seconds on tipping with you, Lisa, starting now.
We were staying in a hotel and the waiter was so keen to get a tip that when I asked for a pack of cards, he delivered them one by one, 52 times.
Boom.
Pause for laugh, no.
Richard Morton,
a little bit of hesitation there.
Yes, there was.
But you shared my silence, Lisa, so thank you.
14 seconds, Richard Morton, on tipping starting now.
Tipping for me and most Geordies is a bit of a problem because it's what happens to you after you've had a few too many drinks. You tend to go left and then right or maybe backwards and forwards. That's the kind of tipping we're used to where we're from, especially with big bottles of brown ale because that's the most typified thing I can think of saying. Oh!
Well done.
Yes!
So Richard Morton was speaking as a whistle and gained that extra point. For doing so, he's in second place. Lisa Goddard still in the lead, and it's also your turn to begin, Lisa.
Oh, no.
The Four Seasons. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
The Four Seasons. Spring. Daffodils appear, hyacinths, tulips, bluebells, snowdrops, birds appear from Africa, chiff-chaff.
Richard.
I think we had
two
two
appears.
Yes, everything was appearing too much.
Appearing,
yes. So, Richard Vranch, you have a correct challenge, and you have 52 seconds on the Four Seasons, starting now.
The Four Seasons is the pizza I always order when I go to an Italian restaurant. I find it has 4 different sections, all of which have different stuff on them.
Yes, Tom O'Connor.
Repetition of difference, I think.
There were too many difference. Yes, Tom, you've got in. 42 seconds, the Four Seasons, starting now.
Four Seasons remind people of Vivaldi, but not to me. I think of the Four Seasons as Sherry, Sherry, baby. Sherry, baby.
Repetition of Sherry.
Oh. They also had a hit with Walk like a man, talk like a man. What a strange voice for that.
Right. I loved your impersonation. It really was.
Was that Emlyn Hughes?
Nearly.
Lisa, you got in first. You have the correct challenge. You have 36 seconds. The Four Seasons starting now.
Summer. Long days, short nights, beaches, sand, paddling, donkeys on the sand.
And the
repetition of sand, I think.
Yes, there was indeed, Tom. You got in there now with 28 seconds on the Four Seasons starting now.
I think the best season of all 4 has got to be winter. I like winter because it gets cool.
Yes.
Oh,
repetition of winter.
I did, I'm sorry.
Yes, you did. You played the winter. Very difficult game. 24 seconds. Back with you, Lisa. The Four Seasons starting now.
Autumn. Leaves turning gold and brown. Mushrooms in the leaf litter under the tree.
That was poetry.
I think the mushrooms have kicked in.
The leaf litter.
Can I just say something? I'm getting annoyed now. Every time she blubbers, she looks at me. Like that. She's put me off.
Right, Four Seasons is with the Four Seasons is with you, and there are 17 seconds, Richard Vranch, starting now.
My favourite season has to be autumn. It's when the leaves turn brown and the man's thoughts turn to things...
Repetition of turn, I thought, yeah.
Turn brown, turn thoughts. Yes, turn thoughts, right. Well done, well listened, Tom. 10 seconds, the Four Seasons with you, starting now.
Of course, of all the Four Seasons, we haven't mentioned spring. Spring is the time, of course, we're repeating spring. Just thought I'd mention that.
A couple of springs, I'm afraid, there. Yes. Repetition.
Did you repeat spring?
I did, I'm afraid.
You went so fast, I didn't know. Right, Richard, you've got in there. Everybody's being here on this subject. 6 seconds on the Four Seasons, starting now.
And in answer to Tom's question, the singer from the Four Seasons was the one and only Frankie Valli, a man with a fantastic falsetto.
Well done.
Did you see how slow I talked there?
As a whistle went, gained that extra point. And we've no more time today to play, just a minute. So let me tell you the final situation. So Richard Vranch finished just in 4th place, just behind Richard Morton. And then it was Tom O'Connor. But out in the lead, just ahead of them all, was Liza Goddard. Congratulations to Lisa Goddard. And my thanks to her and to Richard Morton and to Richard Vranch and also Tom O'Connor. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, hope you have enjoyed Just a Minute. Be with us the next time we play this delightful game. Till then, from us all, goodbye.